I'd like to call the meeting to order. Everybody's ready? Okay, let's take a look at, let me introduce. This is, sure, you had to introduce.
Lisette Harris. I
He is
do
a
a show, Jen
Yeah,
and Zach.
He's a producer here, and wanted to just listen in and then obviously we have our auditor with us, Amity is here. And, which I'm really glad that you're here because some questions have popped up in my little head. Anyway, is there any public comments? There you go. Okay. We're gonna do the audit presentation. May I caution everybody, as you're looking at the 18+ pages of notes, if we could somehow kind of make any questions or comments brief. And if anything needs to be further discussed, if it's something we could put off to the next meeting, that would be good. I would just want to take a chairman's prerogative here and just note for the minutes what great work Sean has done. We've put together two videos. One is for Halloween and the other is for our community producers. Then we've just we had about 6 producers that did the videos that we had asked, and it came out really nice, I thought. So we maybe get some attention from that.
Great.
So thank you to Sean, and obviously always thank you to Jen and to Zach. Zach's dealing with a little problem in his family with his mom, so he is not gonna be here today. Anyway, we will turn the show over to Amity, and we have a new letter from you today, correct? I just want to make sure everybody was looking at the right. The right order.
Yeah, so that, and I will share it on the screen so you'll be able to hopefully see it in real time. We just, Jen had added the responses to there, so you could, sometimes it's nice to have those two. And also in some discussion that we had a couple of weeks ago, I had suggested a couple additional management letter comments, but I'll walk you through that.
Okay, thank you.
And the financial statement. And here is my recommendation. I think actually I would like to go through the financial statements first, because I think those are actually, you'll have more things to discuss, I'm guessing, about the management letter. And so I just thought I'd go through the financials themselves relatively quickly and then get to the management letter. Does that sound like a good plan from where you guys are sitting? Great. So as I bring this up,
and CJ,
is that good? So
not yet.
I will blow this up.
Yeah.
So I need to first, I would be remiss if I did not congratulate Jen on all of her work in this audit. She was stellar, particularly for her first, where she, an audit process where this is not something that's done every year. The level of responsiveness and also just the skill was really clear. And I just want to congratulate Jen on that work that she did this year.
Good job.
I have some things right at the top of my note there. You'll see a few differences in these financial statements just because they've been through some levels of review with the ones that you have from back in August, but not a lot of changes. But first of all, audit adjustments are, meaning those are when we got the trial balance, when we were given QuickBooks. These are adjustments we made that to have things be correctly stated according to generally accepted accounting principles, which is what we are reporting on as an auditor. So these are just a summary of some of those changes. We reclassed some of the investment income, but there's no change in the total investment income. That was fine, but put it in terms of realized interest and dividends, unrealized gains and losses for the purposes of reporting on the financial statements. PTO, paid time off accrual, it is the best practice to record, if it's material, to record an estimate of what you owe to employees as far as unused vacation time. And so that was something that Jen calculated so that we could make those adjustments and have that best practice in place for your financial reporting. The same thing with accrued payroll. You'll see this liability that reflects most pay periods. How they work is you've got one part of the pay period in 1 year and the other part of the pay period in the other year. And so you actually need to accrue the dollars that were worked in 2024, but didn't get paid out until 2025. That's considered like a payable or a liability. One thing is a lease liability. This is for your office lease. It looks kind of alarming and weird, but it really has very little impact on your financial statements, but it is an accounting standard that did go into place for financial statement reporting under those rules, and I'll show you how it appears in here. We recognize some of the state of Vermont appropriations under nonprofit accounting, under the rules for recognition for GAAP accounting, generally accepted accounting principles, which I'll just refer to as GAAP. When a dollar amount is committed and there are no specific barriers or that you have to meet to kind of keep the funds, then the idea is that you recognize those at the time of commitment, not necessarily at the time of receipt. And just know that we did make some adjustments around that. And then prior period adjustments, meaning we took last year's balances and we made some changes to those, to clear out some accounts. There was a settlement that you had received in a prior year that had just been kind of hanging out in a weird place in your QuickBooks. And so we just cleaned that up. It should have been recognized in a prior year. So we took it out of this year's income and we moved it into your beginning equity, basically. And then there was a small little accrual for the Green Mountain Film Festival that was small. But considering a first audit in a long time, some new accounting standards, very few adjustments to make. The statement, I just pointing out that the last time you had a review or an audit done, your organization was not actually required to have a statement of functional expenses. You did it on the 990, you're used to that, but that was new for this time. So the auditor's report, we anticipate a clean opinion, which means that there are no material modifications. It's fairly stated in all material respects, which is, as auditors, that is what the service basically you want us to opine on this very subject, and that's what we have done. So there's just some more additional information here in the report that gives you, it's actually good to read through if you are interested in really learning what an financial statement audit does do and what it doesn't do. There's some good information there in that report. But I'm going to move along. I realize that, I want to make sure I don't get bogged down in these financial statements so we can get to the management letter comments. AJE means something was affected by an audit adjustment we made. So this is what you would see on your internal reporting. No, we didn't make any changes there. No changes in property and equipment. Other assets, no changes in your long-term investments. This is this operating lease right of use asset. You signed a lease at the end of 2024, which means it was a commitment. And under the new standards, you have to say, okay, we have basically temporarily kind of bought the right of use to this space. And so you have to put it there as an asset, just as if you had bought, something physical there. You now have to put leases on the balance sheet. So that you see here, and you're like, okay, we've inflated our assets, but actually, if you go to the liabilities and net assets, in the liability, you'll see that asset is offset by an operating lease liability here. And it has a current portion, which shows what you expect approximately to pay on this lease in the upcoming year. And then the long term, and between the two, they offset the asset. So I just wanted to put that out there. It's kind of a big number, but it nets to zero. But it is how it should be reported on the financial statements. Up here, you'll see this is where the accrued payroll liabilities and accrued vacation show up. So again, this was the result of an adjustment entry. For net assets with donor restrictions, this is a small change from the version you have, but there was actually a modest amount in the Green Mountain Film Festival funds. That's basically their cash balance, which is not, is restricted for that program. So I did change that. That was zero on the copy you have, and it's been updated to $1,100, $1,200 there. So that is your balance sheet. Moving to the statement of activities, which is basically the P&L. And here I'll just point out, I think you know your funding sources, but I'll show how they appear here. These are basically the Comcast contributions, this other operating revenue. This includes your production revenue and a little bit of that settlement that was that you received. And then the grants and contributions, a lot of that is the state of Vermont appropriation there. And then the investment income, which is reported in total there. And down here are your expenses, and you can see it's divided between program and general and administrative. It's considered anything over a 60% investment in program. 60 or above is considered like well within the target range for nonprofits. So you can see, a lot of your expenses are being invested in programs, so there are no issues there with that. I'll say a little bit more about the functional expenses. And then down here, we can see the activity that is with donor restrictions, because you are a nonprofit and you're required to report with donor restrictions and without donor restrictions. And here are basically the activity of the Green Mountain Film Festival, that program, all of their ticket sales, all of any contributions made to that, sponsorships. It's restricted to that program. This is what was spent down. They started out with this balance, and you can see this is that ending balance there, which really reflects the cash balance that they had at the end of the year. So total change in net assets, both with and without donor restrictions, equals about this $19,000, which is your net positive. You have net positive net income. So that's good. There was a modest surplus in 2024. The statement of functional expenses, if you look at your 990, if you're used to looking like that, it won't look too much different from this. But more, Jen and I had a conversation, was of our opinion, or my opinion anyway, that I suggested that you allocate more things to G&A. The 990 seems to, I think, is understating what is actually some of your general and administrative costs. And so, for example, Jen does a fair amount of administrative work. Certainly that, she does the bookkeeping, manages a lot of that, and that's considered administrative. So there are some estimates to allocate that. But as I said, there's still a very high percentage being reported in program, which is appropriate. Statement of cash flows will just showed up. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, just from Jen's perspective, does she have to keep a log of every 15 minutes of whether it's, where the work is going to, or do we just take a ballpark?
This is a ballpark. Yeah. And that would still be preferable. You can do, it's not a management letter comment, but it could be where sometimes we recommend that you just do like a time study for a couple weeks throughout the year, and then you just can get an idea. And I would say Zach should do this too, because he's not doing 100% program either. Everybody's got some admin, board meetings or admin, everybody has a little bit of admin, but I would concentrate on the co-directors.
I've always worked in offices where everybody's checking every 15 minutes. You write down who you were working for, what you were doing. That's a nightmare.
I think that would probably be overkill for this situation, blessedly. So I don't think you would need to do that. But you might do that for a couple of weeks, like a week at this part of the year, a week at this time of the year, a week at this time of the year, and see what it tells you. Might give you some useful information.
Thank you.
So for the cash flows, this is just, you can see from operating activities, you had positive cash flows. That's consistent with your surplus that you showed at the end of the year. And you also have investing activities from your Edward Jones, basically. And then the notes, I'll take you again quickly. The disclosures, they are a key part to a set of financial statements. Note 1 just has a lot of general information and general policies of the organization. And you can learn a lot about accounting if you read through these. It also has disclosures about these new accounting standards that have come into place since the last time you had financial statements done according to GAAP. And so these are spelled out here. The only one that had significant impact is that lease accounting standard, which I walked you through right there.
Great.
Liquidity is just, again, this is a new disclosure since the last time you had GAAP accounting financial statements. And that just says we're going to take all the resources you have in terms of cash, accounts receivable, and then we're going to say, well, what's available to you within the next year? And that just gives a financial statement users an idea if you can pay the bills, if all of your financial statements are wrapped up in non-liquid assets or not. So for you guys, you do have some good liquidity there, and you have investments which you could use if you needed to. There's a lot of information about the investments and fair investment information, which is required. So that's in here. And this, it kind of spells out the office lease, which is the operating leases for those, the kind of largest adjustment that we made to get that on the financial statements. And then just various things about concentrations, saying that 98% of those things on the grants and contributions line was from the state of Vermont. Spells out the relationship with Comcast as the cable provider. And that's the end of them. So as I said, I know that I'm sure the management letter has a lot of things, but I'm happy if people have some questions. And you should also feel free to, I realize our time this evening is limited, but I'm also open to, answering your questions at a later date too about this if you have them.
Thank you. Could you point me to the liquidity number, Emily, please?
Yeah, it's note 2. It's note 2, which is PDF page 15.
Mm-hmm.
And PDF page 15, page 13 of the statements themselves. And it just takes cash, your accounts receivable, basically all your assets, your financial assets, and then says, well, the long-term investments, those are for long-term. Net assets with donor restrictions, that's the money from the Green Mountain Film Fest. So technically, that's not for your general operating. And then that's what you get, the net amount.
Excellent, thank you.
So it's on page 13 for us. I don't know if you found it.
And Amity, this is CJ. I'm ORCA's treasurer. So thank you so much for amazing work and getting us for our first audit. I know when I first raised to the board, hey, maybe we should do one of these. You have a new treasurer. And I'm only the second one. Everybody was like, okay, what are we getting into? And thanks to the board for supporting this. A couple of questions in the management letter, which perhaps I should wait until we get there. There's a recommendation for a whistleblower policy, which I'm guessing we all strongly support. The only thing, and I was skimming it because I got the recent copy about a little bit ago. What do you think about conflict of interest policies, or are there any other best practices that you?
Yeah, well, why don't I go through these, and when we get to that one, I can certainly address that. Will that work?
Great.
And did you have other ones, CJ, that you had questions about?
No,
in particular.
No, I mean, I'm looking forward to this. At the very end, we had a discussion back channel. I think we can help address that. But before I take us to the next part, did anybody else have questions about what Amity just walked us through.
No, I'm good. Anybody got questions? I have more questions about the management, that we're gonna do now.
So the management, first of all, it's nice and long, and that is actually completely, you haven't actually had an audit because I think you got your last financial statements were a review and they don't have managed. That's not, you don't make this document for review engagement, but for an audit you do. And we actually, especially for an organization like yours, where you're just doing it kind of, you're not going to be doing it every year, we try to pile on the comments because we know they're actually the most, in some ways, the most useful part of this whole process to the organization. We're not giving an opinion on internal controls, but we certainly notice a lot as we're going through things. So you shouldn't see the length of it. It's got nothing to do with actually how good your procedures are necessarily. It's not uncommon. Even if an organization has been audited in the past and then they get a new auditor, it's common to just have a really big list. So just be aware of that.
Yeah,
it does not
two stated goals. One was, a clean audit or, something like this helps us as we start to diversify our revenue sources and move forward in the new world. And the second thing is we wanted this guidance for best practices and to defend or protect the company. I mean, we're not going to be here all the time. So how do we set it up best to pass along to our successors and our constituents a company that stays on mission and that's responsibly managed? So thank you for this.
Oh, you're very welcome. We love management letter comments. So you can see some responses here, which can feel free to add upon if you would like to after consideration. Journal entries are, those entries that are made, they are transactions, even though they're not always based on like an invoice or something. They do affect the financials of the organization, and we recommend that there be a more formal review process for that, because that is a way, if somebody is trying to cause trouble, journal entries are one way they can do it if someone is acting unethically or fraudulently. So that's how you can cover your tracks, is going in and making journal entries. So that's why we recommend it. For bank reconciliations, you'll see a theme through this where Jen was kind of like, oh yes, I am looking at these, but not necessarily indicating that she has reviewed these or someone else has reviewed those. So you'll see that theme with auditors. If we don't see evidence of a review, it didn't happen. That's kind of our rule. So that's why we encourage you for this kind of thing. Monthly bank reconciliations are prepared by the co-executive director, but not reviewed or approved by another individual. So we would recommend that another individual do that. That can be a board member, it can be the co-director, anybody who, knows the lay of the land and can just look at and make sure it matches, make sure it's being done timely. Authorized check signers. This is common in an organization where sometimes a nonprofit organization, you have like board members will leave and they're still on the bank account and it's a pain to change it, but we recommend you keep an eye on who is an authorized signer on your accounts to protect the assets. Invoice review and approval documentation. I know from what Jen told me, and I actually believe her, that she's reviewing those invoices pretty closely before, those checks are being printed, and they're going out the door. But again, it's important to show that you're documenting your review and approval of those. That can just be a signature, it could be a checklist, whatever works for the organization. Report review procedures. Again, the same thing. You have, I think in a large part, Jen is preparing these reports, like the Rule 8 report and the state reports, and she's probably doing a great job on it, but everybody makes mistakes. And it's just, you always just want a second pair of eyes that could just look at it and go like, huh, is that really the right number? Or, oh, that number doesn't make any sense. So it's good to have that review. And in the event you have somebody who is not as, God forbid, as ethical or as on the ball as the person currently preparing these. So that's just a best practice. This is one that a lot of organizations, nonprofits, it's not uncommon to have a lack of that review in there, even for folks who get audited every year. Documentation of authorized recurring payments. If you have a recurring payment set up, should you have to every month document that review and approval when it doesn't change, it's the same vendor? Not necessarily. A shortcut for that is to maintain an approved list of vendors that you're paying every month, and you're basically saying these we don't need to have a separate documentation of the review. We've approved these, they can just get paid, go out the door. But you do want that list, and you'd want to update it and date when you last updated, kind of like that kind of documentation. Document storage. This is also very common in this day and age, especially after the COVID-19 kind of changed all of our procedures. We recommend not depending on the vendors for your backup of invoices, looking at their sites for that, because things happen, as we know, and so it's good to make sure you download copies of any invoices. They can still be digital, that's fine, but they should be in your personal memory banks, at ORCA Media, as opposed to on a vendor, which they might change their policies, they might not go back indefinitely. It's the same thing for bank statements, all of that. Annual employee evaluations. You have a handbook, and the handbook says that you'll be evaluated annually. So during our audit of payroll, we noted that that's according to what the co-director was telling us, that wasn't always the case. So we recommend that you conduct those in accordance with your approved policies, basically. If your policy says that you do it, then you should see that you do it. And if you feel it's unnecessary to do it, then you should change your policy so it no longer says that you should do it. But this one you probably should do anyway. So here are some recommended policies. Whistleblower policy, records retention policy. These are the ones that you'll see they ask about specifically on the 990 because of the Sarbanes-Oxley Act. So those are good ones to focus on. They're not hard. They're usually not hard to adopt. There are a lot of examples that you can, language that you can just review, see if it works for you, and then just adopt it. We do recommend that this would be something the board would approve policy-wise. That's one of the things the board should do. So those two are things that there's a checkbox on the 990 about. So those are good ones to prioritize. Investment policy. These you might want to consider with your Edward Jones. Do you have, what are strategies do you want? Is there any way where the organization can say, here's the purpose of these investments, how we want them to serve us, and as a result of that, we are choosing these of investment strategies, these kinds of asset allocations, how much in cash, how much in CDs, in equity, you can, if you have a tax at Edward Jones, they probably have a policy, a template that you can fill in the blanks. Also, things like spending policies. Are you keeping them is the intention to take a draw on them, or are you saving them? It's just so the organization can do some planning, so you see that they're used in the best interests of the organization at the time. Capitalization policy. This is for accountant nerds. When you determine what is the threshold over which, where a piece of equipment or something costs, that we will bother to put it on the balance sheet as a fixed asset and property, plant, and equipment, as opposed to just expense it in the year we bought it. And so we just recommend that, I think you have a practice, we recommend you put an actual policy in place, and then it makes it really clear. And in that, we see this a lot, that you clarify what you're going to do with bulk purchases. If you buy 100 laptops, do you capitalize it based on the bulk dollar amount of all those 100, or on a single laptop that you bought that might be beneath the threshold? So that's just, again, it's kind of nerdy accounting stuff, but it's the kind of things that auditors go, well, which one do you want? What should you do? It makes decision making a lot easier for the person doing the accounting, if you have this clarified.
And it's just a quick question. Jen,
Yeah.
is there anything other than Harriet that tends to fall under that?
So yes, Henrietta, the new one, the
Oh,
new
I'm-
Harriet. Sorry. She has fallen over and is in the fixed assets category. And I think she's probably we generally don't buy equipment that falls over that limit, but she was definitely in there. I think
And who is this?
the broadcast server that we just bought, that hypercaster,
Oh, then we haven't, Harriet?
Henrietta.
Henrietta, okay. Just checking.
Yeah, that would be a good example of one. So employee handbook, last updated in 2012. I'm sure things have changed. So it's good to give that a once over. I believe you've been doing some work on that with policies and personnel policies. Am I correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just a quick thing on the investment policy that was discussed in several board meetings. And if you want to, Jen, if this helps you, Pat and I can try to codify it and shoot it over to you.
Okay, that sounds great.
And if you're curious, Amity, the main thing is just to maintain operating revenue availability. And then it's pretty conservative investment guideline that I'm operating under.
So in case you wanted to, liquidate some of it for operations and things like that.
Yeah, I'm not allowed to, well, it's not that I'm not allowed to, but my guidelines are, this is conservatively managed. And I felt that the original treasurer that that handed over to me had established what I felt were very appropriate things. And I think the board also felt that Mike's work was appropriate. So we stayed in his swimming lanes.
Got it. Good. Timesheet approval, employees fill out timesheets and they actually sign their name on them. And there's a place actually for the reviewer, the supervisor to sign their name on it, but it was empty on all of them. So I would suggest just signing your name because you're looking at them anyway. So, and you can see the response is straightforward. This one, accounting procedures manual, we make this one a lot. It's, I think that I have faith that some organizations struggle getting around to this for years, but it's probably the most valuable thing you can do in terms of making sure operations are not disrupted. If somebody leaves unexpectedly or leaves for a prolonged period of time, it basically is a way you want to document all your procedures. So if somebody has to step in, it would still, I'm sure they would still run into some trouble here and there and have questions, but the idea behind this is that would take care of them so you can have somebody step in and not put the organization at risk by having important accounting and other functions not happen. So I think the organizations that have had the most success building this are to take it section by section and just start building documents for each kind of cycle of transactions. And then when you've got them all together, you can kind of put them in one document, but to just take it step by step, it seems to be a good approach.
And
then they would be reviewed regularly.
Yeah. And this is CJ again, treasurer. This may not be the appropriate time and place to ask this. So if so, Pat and co-directors, let me know. Do you need like Amity to give you an example, or do you feel like you're already on it? What do you guys need? Because this is probably your heaviest lift here.
I think I've got some templates for the accounting procedures manual as well as the things that we do. So I think in terms of the manual, I think we've got some templates and samples.
Fabulous. Thanks.
Yeah.
I think for all this stuff, it's Pat, that there are templates available, personnel policies right online that you can, or maybe a company that we know of that we can, nothing like stealing and crossing out their name and putting in ORCA. I like that approach.
Yeah, and then you can, look it over and see what works. Sometimes it makes sense to have for a personnel policy, if you have a legal counsel, that can be a good idea to do periodically. Um, and there's this council of nonprofits, if you Google it, they have some nice templates for nonprofit, kind of templates for common policies, and those can be good places to start with for sure.
That's a good suggestion, I think, about them.
So this is one that
Sorry.
we make a lot. This is the final one, a cyber security risk assessment. You guys deal a lot of technology, and some really devastating things can happen to nonprofit organizations as a result of breaches in security. And so this again is, cybersecurity insurance is becoming more common. More and more, even if there are some digital tools that online that some organizations we've had who just frankly couldn't afford it to do a full-fledged hire somebody to do one, but went through some common things to just, it's good to evaluate what your highest areas, through a conversation with people in your organization who are in the know, where you can brainstorm about what are the highest, the things that most likely, if something happened, would really be the most serious. And that's a good place to start. You're still the idea is about mitigating risk as much as you can. And you obviously can't get rid of it 100%, but it's good to give it some attention, because as we all know, I mean, we've definitely had clients where things really had a really huge impact on the organization because of something that kind of wasn't their fault, so it's good to avoid that when we can. So that's the end of my management letter comments. CJ, you had a question about conflict of interest policy. I believe you had one, or else I would have put it on the list. Okay. But maybe I miss it? I might have missed it. So,
do we have one?
I think we might have a very old one that's kind of like mentioned in.
Because that's a hot issue these days.
Yeah,
so
I raised it in part because I raised it in part because it's part of our security apparatus to have that conflict of interest policy. As strange as it may sound to think of that as a security apparatus, but it's a great discourager for really bad behavior, especially if you put some teeth in it.
I was just going to say, this is one we're always looking at, and I'm actually can't figure out why didn't give this management letter comment to you, because I don't see it in we kind of collect your corporate documents. And I don't remember, Jen, if you had showed me something, but in any case, yes, by all means, review your conflict of interest policy. That's another one on the 990.
And if you could, do you have a collection, or could you point us to a collection of like all of the scary stories of things that have happened to nonprofits so that we can go scare ourselves and react? That would be great.
I don't know such a site. I'd probably be afraid to be an auditor if I visited there regularly. But I'm gonna
we'll get one. We'll look at one because everybody's got them these days. It's the hot topic out there. The conflict of interest, and yes, we have a question.
I have a question about the employee handbook that was last updated in 2012. Does that mean when somebody new comes on here that they get that handbook?
They should.
They do.
It's now 13 years old.
Right. We need to look at that.
Yeah, and I think part of it because it's camera operators, and so because they are part-time and not quite temp workers, but they don't qualify for a lot of the items that are listed in the handbook, and that may have been why things were kind of delayed in terms of like, oh, they don't get benefits, they don't, and so a lot of those didn't change. And so in that sense, like some of those things that are in the handbook haven't changed because the benefit levels haven't changed, the PTO levels. But with the camera operators who don't get those, they don't really look through it because they're not eligible for a
There's
lot
been
of
some
those.
legal changes
Yeah.
we need to make sure we've covered.
But
Can we look at some places that have an employee
Yeah.
handbook that like Van?
yes,
And compare it with what we have?
we do have some. We've been looking at the Van does a benefit survey, and so one of the questions was the employee handbook. So then everyone submitted their employee handbook. So what I've been doing is looking at the different employee handbooks from the different AMOs that participated. So I think we did update, like when we started to do the summer camp, we updated the policy related to adults and children, so that's more like we didn't really have anything in our employee handbook. So we've been adding things to it. It's just kind of gathering it all together and pulling it together.
One more question about investments. If someone was a big fan of ORCA, wanted to contribute resources to us and had stock in some organization, could they give that stock, sign it over to us? And is that covered in our own things in terms of accounting procedures and other things like that? I mean, it seems like a reasonable thing that would happen, or could happen. If someone had.
If someone wanted to donate, if we got donations,
Is
yes.
that CJ or Amity? Do you know the answer to that, Jim?
Well, I think,
Go ahead, Emily, and then I can
well, I
answer.
was just going to say that, sometimes you can talk to Edward Jones and see, because a lot of organizations will set up an account that is just there to receive donations and then liquidate them. Which you would want to have in a policy what you do with them when you receive donations. Most organizations will turn around and liquidate them, but some
Yeah.
choose to do other things. And I think it's kind of like it might be part of a gift acceptance policy, which is not a bad thing to have. It's not as key, for organizations to get a ton of philanthropic or, donations, and people are always trying to give them, pieces of land or things like that. It's very good to have a gift acceptance policy, but
Yeah.
it can cover a lot of things. And there are examples out there.
And I think it's a great question, because one of the things that became clear during, for example, COVID and natural disasters is that ORCA Media was playing a uniquely valuable role and the other public access groups were playing a uniquely valuable role for communication and coordination in natural disaster situations that the legislature recognized in supporting us. So, and as we start to look at declining revenues from our statutory support sources, partially but not completely balanced by the legislative recognition and support of the various public access stuff, the board has been having discussions about how do we diversify revenue sources. One of the great risks for this company is it's got a single, a virtually single revenue source, slightly diversified by the legislature, but if you're thinking about it, just as one of your dangers is always, hey, all your money's coming from one place. What if that disappears? So we have some ideas, but the reason this question was so helpful is because we never really have discussed or thought about that. So great raise and Amity, great response. What I can say is this. Schools and other organizations typically can accept stocks. They are allowed to choose whether they retain them in their original format or whether they're liquidated. And I would recommend to our board that leaving that decision on a case-by-case basis is a good idea, as long as they're recorded and documented and trackable. And so we need to have a policy that says, yes, we accept them. And then from there, we will we'll grow with the change. But I think that the point that you just raised, that we should get that policy and start to let the community know that this is a way they can support our mission, especially as we broaden what we're doing to support more of our community, more of our constituency, is really going to be a great idea. So great thought.
Really, thank you both, all three. And it says here under cybersecurity management responded by saying you don't have the necessary skill set to conduct a cybersecurity risk assessment and may need just a discussion with the board as to how to address the need. Is there a place to go that we could ask somebody to take a look at what we've got and what I'm trying to think about where our places are where people could do us some damage, and we're out there.
Right.
Where would you suggest we even start to look? I have absolutely zippo idea.
There's a place in town and, it was used to be beside the, North Branch Cafe.
Oh.
North Branch Tech.
North Branch Tech, so I would guess that they would do that,
Oh,
but
really? Okay.
yeah, they do that.
There's also, I don't know if it's still up and running, maybe Michael Obadi can help me with this one, but the tech center in Randolph used to run a cybersecurity program, maybe, maybe have their students, if it still exists, have their students survey, come in and see what are the weaknesses, I don't know. And there, I'm sure throughout our area, there's other programs that are run cybersecurity.
I'm gonna shut that one down right now. You don't want a bunch of students coming in.
Well,
and
I was just gonna
being
say,
Right, but but at least a
I
teacher
was just
could
gonna say,
assess.
they wouldn't have the skill set for that. They're learners.
Not only that, but it would produce a potential.
To
So
do
my,
Right, but
I would,
what I was saying is just start with, for example, if somebody generates just a survey that asks like general surveys in terms of, do you change your password, things like that, and you would get a sense of it, no?
I was thinking about
gonna note-
hiring,
so
I
I'm the
know.
former chief information officer for GT and then Verizon's Global Optical Networks, and the former chief technology officer for what became the largest hosting and content distribution network company after the world. I created the chief security officer and staffed its office and set up its charter and staffed it with the guy who then became Cisco Systems internal chief of security. So a couple of things. There are three main sources of security breaches. The biggest one, strangely enough, is just us people, because we're the, so they're absolutely right, and this is fraud and hacking and just general bad behavior is part of why I really wanted to launch this process. But just tread very carefully here, because we need to take this offline and discuss it.
Yeah,
Okay,
we can do that. I think we have somebody can help us right on the board.
Yeah.
All right.
my question was related to that, which is there someone that we know that has the skills to do a cyber audit of
Right.
our organization?
Yeah,
Just look at all the things that we do
yeah,
and show where maybe a uncovered weak spot
yeah.
that a hacker would want to
I
grab.
agree with you. Yeah, and I don't know how it's
Yeah.
all set up well enough to
It
even.
might be a senior in this field.
Yeah.
Maybe-
Help.
The Circle could sponsor a meeting I can join and provide some
So
thoughts.
she's got the background for this, I think. So
Great.
so if you want to help us,
Yeah.
that'd be awesome.
Yeah. No, I've needed to
Okay,
protect.
so, oh, sorry, CJ.
Sorry?
I'm sorry, I was zipping along. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Nope. I just thought you had said something and I missed it. No,
Oh,
it's
okay. And Nancy, with all of the recommendations you've given us, what is the normal turnaround time when we should be doing this as quickly as possible? But there's also work that gets involved. I mean, do you come back and check whether we completed everything so that you can give us a clean bill of health? Or how does that work?
well, I just want to clarify that this is what we call value added in the financial statement audit field. So the management letter is not a required part of what we do in an audit. It's also nothing, you don't have to submit this when you submit your financial statements to a donor. You don't have to submit this. This is really just for your organization's use. And I just do want to be clear, and this is where I say read the auditor's report, because you'll learn a lot about exactly what a financial statement audit is or isn't. And it means that we obviously have to evaluate as part of our procedures, internal controls, and learn about them so we can plan our audit to an appropriate level of risk. But we are not giving an opinion on internal controls. So all of that is to say, if you were getting a recurring audit, would we check in on these, or a recurring review, or, yeah, we would check in with you and say, hey, how'd you do this year? What should we repeat this year to kind of keep it at front of mind? But I would say, your clean bill of health from the audit is getting an unmodified opinion. And that's what will publicly be seen. This is really more of a tool for management and governance. So I would say, so like I said, this to me, I thought the procedures you have in place were quite clean. This was, we say, a clean audit. There wasn't a lot of messy stuff we had to figure out, and there are a lot of things in place, and I feel like your management has a good mindset for this kind of thing. So I think like you have a lot in your corner on this one. I would say low hanging fruit first. Why not? A lot of those things that Jen is already doing, but she's just not documenting. Great. Some of these policies are really easy. You can download. I shared the link for Council of Nonprofits. You'll find some templates for some of the simpler policies, and you're done. You just put in your name, approve it. Make sure you do want to review it. Make sure it's not got weird stuff in it, but most of it, boilerplate stuff, will work. You're working on your personnel policies. You do need a conflict of interest policy, and I have to say I'm deeply embarrassed that I don't have a comment about that because it's like one of the top. It's the top three. You know what I mean? And so I don't know if maybe you had an old one that I saw. I don't remember.
It said we had one that's quite old, but it's never been reviewed. But there's a lot of changes in conflicts of interest over the years. As a matter of fact, this organization I work with, we pushed through an ethics bill in the legislature 2 years ago, which they then chose to eliminate themselves from. I always thought that was great that they would back off from the ethics policy, but what the hell? But anyway, so it's a hot topic, like you said. It's really.
It is. But it doesn't have to be, what we would recommend, and I can add this if you would like it as part of that. This is a draft, and these responses are draft. I can certainly add it. We recommend that, you implement an annual disclosure, so everybody on the board, or when they're new to the board, they have to sign something that says, here, I'm not aware of any current conflicts of interest. And your policies will say, what do you do if you do, one arises, how do you handle it? And there's, some standard practices around that. And I think, a fairly standard policy would probably serve you very well.
Right.
So I would.
So, and do we need to, I don't remember, do we need to bond the treasurer, or are we okay to just leave it unbonded?
Say that you bugged out a little bit. What was that?
Oh, sorry. Do we need, some organizations bond the treasurer. I don't even recall what that means or what it is. Currently, we have an unbonded treasurer.
Oh, I think what does it mean? Probably when you get in your insurance, you have them add something on there. I don't think it's particularly common in the size nonprofits that I've seen.
Great.
It might be. I don't know if it comes under directors.
Yeah, we have that. We have the directors, and we have that here. I don't know how much we have, but we have it. So
I honestly can't. I don't know. That's a good question, CJ, and I don't know the answer. I will just tell you flat out, but I assume that bonded must mean that it is covered in insurance. So if you do see the treasurer gets up to no good, you have some insurance for that.
I feel like we've got a great team, and we're just kind of more preparing for the future. And then the only other thing is we did have a transition of financial management on my part because I'm the second one. And so we were doing this in partly to just, set a stamp that says, hey, to date, we're great. And, here are the things we're going to do to him. But it's, I wanted to recognize something. When we initiated this, I was scared, and I just want to recognize I wasn't scared about the audit because I've known this organization for a while. I want to thank the co-directors for making it through this, which was, I know, a heavy lift, especially you, Jen, and getting all of the day-to-day work done and staying, on mission. I think it's a great accomplishment. And as the person who got you into this, and the boards did support it, but I just wanted to say how I am because I think it reflects really well on all of you.
That's great to
And
hear.
you made it easy. They were able to work with you. And so Amity, Jen, Zach, all of you guys just,
Good point.
thank you. Well done. Great
Thank you
skills.
for that, CJ. Well, deserved for sure. You're always working when I come here. Always. Oh, questions everywhere. Yes.
I noticed you've said just so I fix it in my mind, that this is the draft, that it's, you expect it to come back as clean. What is the timeline? When do we know is it?
It's clean now.
Oh, it's clean. You know what I mean? Like you can pretty much account on that, but we will need some time. We've had a very busy year. I will just tell you that flat out. And we're going into the two busiest weeks in some ways of our year right now. But so we have some additional review to complete on our end. I don't anticipate there would be any major changes. If there were, at that point, we could certainly bring that to your attention if there was anything that would really materially change how these are presented. And you're free to make additional. I know that Jen was looking forward to maybe doing some other editing on the responses, and those responses are really, I would recommend you just do as much or as little as useful to you as an organization. If you want to spell out a timeline on them, for example, there you say, oh, we plan to have this in place in the next 6 months, or that can be useful as a tool for yourselves and say, okay, how did we do on that?
Emily, we have one more question.
I want to know.
Yeah,
what our
Amity, I'm curious,
what insurance do we have? What is our insurance policy? What does it cover?
That's Jen, directors and.
We do
Yeah.
have directors and officers,
Directors and officers insurance.
and I can give you, I don't know, like the details of how much gets
Is it
covered.
similar to what van organizations have? Is there some?
Yes, I think it's pretty
There's no
common.
universal policy for programs like ours that we all get, that
So
we buy into.
I think it's the same that we've had forever, so we haven't made any changes to it. So I think it's been whatever umbrella, and we get it through the Alliance, a nonprofit organization that does, so the insurance company that we get it from works with nonprofits, so it's all, I think, I've just been maintaining it, and
We just look at the amount that were covered individually is at
Yeah.
100,000.
so.
I have a question
don't-
for Amity. Amity?
Yeah.
I'm
Yes.
just curious about how you saw our relationship with the Green Mountain Film Festival, if that was sort of a cleanly defined, it's a more recent, I don't even know if call it an acquisition, but we may also be at some point jettisoning it, and I'm just wondering if it looked typical or an odd bird, or what your thoughts on it were.
Well, it's it's a kind of a fiscal sponsorship, kind of, as the best I could tell from it, where and you're certainly helping them administer it. In those situations, it's usually considered you treat it as a program of the nonprofit, and then if they spin off, they can, if like they form their own 501(c)(3) or whatever, that's fine. I would say it is clean, and that the records are kept very, the accounting is done so that you're not commingling the activities, which makes it much more straightforward. So that is good. Jen is able to get documentation that I wanted to see of those activities because it was kind of treated as a program of Orca Media, from Paivon, which was useful. So it wasn't like it wasn't, but my understanding is that it was a fiscal sponsorship as opposed to an agency, and in which case it is basically for financial accounting for statement purposes considered to be a program of your organization. But if they were decided to spin off, you would just send them on their way with their net assets. And at this point, their net assets, or at the end of 2024, the net assets were $1,200 or so. So, but I think continuing to keep it really well segregated is important.
Great, thanks.
Great
Okay,
question.
thank you. Is any other questions from anybody? Emily, thank you so much. It has been a pleasure. And I'm
I
sure.
have one more question.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
So now that we've survived this, and to some extent, this will be a board question later, but if we were to repeat this in 3 years or 5 years with a very similar business model, so not a big change, because I realize changes will change the answer, but it was kind of a big chunk of change for us as a nonprofit to be able to get the money together. If we were to continue to do this on a regular basis, what kind of budget do we need to make? I know that's kind of a funny question for you, but
That is a good question, and I'll tell you why. CPAs are thin on the ground. They are thin and getting thinner every day. So I would say that it's not gonna, and JMM, we're currently tend to be on the low end of it. We pretty much undercharge. And that might change, you know what I mean? So if you take, usually if you think it's usually like a 5% increase, every year, 3 to 5%, these days more 5, I think that would be a minimal, but it wouldn't surprise me if it would go up more. So your options are, there are review procedures, which this organization has done previously. You don't get the scrutiny of internal controls that you do because there's not part of the requirement. But if you're looking to see like, okay, are we doing things roughly according to generally accepted accounting principles, or something that maybe a donor would like, those are still can be valuable. A lot less work for staff.
Okay. And that was my question. I was like, hey, is it less expensive if we do this again in 3 years because you've done it? And you're like,
It would be like a brand new audit. That's the thing. If you do it it wouldn't be less expensive. No.
okay.
I would say, yeah. And I'm just in the current climate, I just can't imagine it, not being more expensive. Yeah, it is an expensive thing. But I think if you just write your policies here, and I know that there were certain things in here. I made audit adjustments, and I discussed some of those with Jen. With some of them are more accrual basis, the lease accounting, and I'll just say on the side that I'm happy to work with Jen if they just things come up and you just have a question like how do I book this, or I'm just happy to answer that kind of question, or if you need if it did rise to a level of needing to charge for it, fine, but you have somebody who's very competent with accounting there, so
thank you so
happy to be a resource in that way.
Oh, I'm sorry, who's shouting? I can't tell on the Zoom. I'm sorry, Dave, go ahead.
Jessica, how do we advertise that we've been audited and passed it?
Or do we?
Doesn't it become something like a badge of trust that this organization has passed in an audit just this year and got a good report or an acceptable report or something like that?
I just put it on the website.
I would think that might be something that somebody who was from out of state and wanted to work with us
investor
would like to know, how solid are we?
I think she said we put it on, I don't think people have actually announced that, but we could put it on the website.
It just seems like it's something that took a lot of work from our staff and for her.
Maybe we could do it as a kudos to
successful.
them. like, maybe I could do it as a kudos to staff, the board could, on behalf of the board, thank you to staff for, we
Okay,
could do it that way.
We can do, well, in addition to that, we literally can put a note that says, ORCA has been audited by this firm and has a clean audit. Because part of the reason that we approved this expenditure in the first place was the recognition that times were changing. We were going to be needing to diversify sources and that we would potentially be looking at grants and contracts within our charitable business purpose. And that we wanted our potential partners to have confidence. And I feel like this has been incredibly successful. So let's go turn it into expansion of our business purpose.
Yeah,
Question.
I'm sorry, is there, I just, to piggyback off of CJ's earlier question, is this, Amity, something you can advise on in the scope of, what you've looked at, what your recommended timeline? Should we be doing this every 3 years, every 5 years, every 10 years?
It depends on the purpose. If you want to, for donors, because you know these are reporting on your financial statements as of December 31st, 2024. That's already almost a year. You know what I mean? So just know that in 2 years, if you give a donor these financial statements, they're still going to say, well, but what about this year? You know what I mean? That's how they work. They're ephemeral in their way. They're only reporting on something a specific time. So if depending on your needs, as far as what donors are asking for, if it will serve you well to do it, you might want to consider doing maybe a review engagement more frequently, because that does, you know, though many donors will accept those
Yeah,
as meaningful.
be clear, Amity's talking about a financial review. So we've had the lowest level
Yes.
audit. This is just a G, you know, are we following generally accepted accounting practices? Yes, we are. You know, and then the management letter is guidance to us, kind of best practices. And then the
And
financial,
that usually isn't part of a review. We'll
Right.
make comments if we see stuff, but we're just not giving, we don't have to do the same risk assessment.
right, yeah. But at the same time, thank you so much for that value add. But to be clear, the financial review she's talking about is a much lower cost.
Yeah, but what
you
is
know,
the, I just still am looking for clarity on what the frequency of a full audit would be recommended to be.
It so depends on on the organization, and I saying that because it could be that your key kind of people that you're looking for donations from, it may or they might value it more or less. They might ask for it, so it would be something as you're looking into opportunities like, okay, we have these folks, they're really asking for an audit, they're really asking for a review, and then in a way, the idea is if you can access more philanthropic funds because you get an audit, then it kind of is, I guess, hopefully paying for itself in some ways, right? But it wouldn't, if you're not getting those requests a lot from the folks you're asking for, then it might not be worth it at this point. And there could be a time where it becomes worth it. So I think you just need to really gauge that.
Okay.
Yeah, there's not kind of a,
No, like a established sort of, you know, this is like the go-to.
yeah, it's very,
Okay.
very much depends on the organization.
mhm.
The
Yeah.
size, the complexity.
got one last question.
Sure, go ahead.
What was the date that ORCA had incorporated?
I think I feel like it's 2020, I'm sorry, 2004.
You know what month?
I don't. I just, that year, because that's where I think I was looking at our tax ID.
Fully accessible. It's a public record on the Secretary of State's office. And so you can literally
Answer.
articles.
124?
No, 2004.
2004.
2004.
I was looking about whether we should be having an anniversary of some kind in the near
Oh, a
future.
celebration to draw attention. Excellent.
That's what I meant.
Okay.
That's a-
Excellent.
Can double check on the date.
That's a good one. I like that.
I've never heard of an organization doing an audit party, but it could be the first. But don't.
I hope not.
But don't be publishing, announcing anything till you get the finals, because
Yeah, right.
that would be bad form until you've signed the representation letter and all that.
It's December, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Amity. We really appreciate your work and thanks to staff. That was great, CJ. Thank you for that. But you certainly can stay on with us if you'd like, Amity.
Yeah, we'd love that.
Well, but I actually I love a board meeting, especially if people ask me my opinion. But I actually do have something that I have to be ready for at 8 o'clock this evening. But it's been a pleasure. I'm not just saying this. It's really been a pleasure working with the organization so far, and I'm sure Jen, you and I will be in touch to finish wrapping up the things we need to wrap up. But thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so.
Okay, take care of yourselves.
For willingness
Bye bye.
to guide us.
We
Thank you.
incorporated in 2000.
Yeah,
This is the 25th anniversary.
that would be awesome.
I think we should do it.
I think we should.
I'm with you. Let's do it.
Team for a party, man. That's it. And
I mean, it's partly letting people know how long ORCA has been serving this
that is a
community
great
with the
idea.
services that we provide.
Thank you for that. That's great. We will double check it and put a planning commission party together. Oh,
And we can invite all the former members
there you
to
go.
come to the
There
party.
you go.
Yeah.
Is there any way, I don't know what our order that we have, but I know that we postponed the officers election
Yep.
because the last meeting couldn't happen. Is there, I know how we tend to drop members as we go, so I would,
Well, there's
Like,
a
if we
vote
can-
board for us
Today.
next on the list.
it's
Yeah,
next,
it's
okay,
next.
I just wanted to bang that gong. We
Yes.
have to get that done.
Yes, we do.
Can I, before,
So, CJ said she would be willing to stay on. Thank you, thank you. You've done a fabulous job. Okay, is that good? Does it? And,
I mean, if there's somebody else,
yeah, no, I asked that several meetings. They don't raise their hand, but we're here. Carlos said he would stay on.
Mhm.
Excellent, and I will stay on unless somebody else wants to do this and got other things to do sometimes. But if not, that's, now, we don't have a vice, whatever I am, vice. whatever, Chair? We
No,
don't
I
have a
don't.
vice chair.
Hmm.
And if I don't make it, who's, just somebody picks up and takes over?
I don't
There,
know.
there was a time where the vice chair and the secretary was defined as the
Oh,
pinch
secretary
hitter if you
slash
couldn't
vice
make it.
chair? I like that.
And I think
You can
there
do
was sort of a slash vice chair.
Oh,
Um,
that works. He's nodding his head. So do we have?
That's
to-
it, that's it.
No, that's it.
Business.
So the slate of officers as presented are CJ, Carlos, and me. And Carlos slash treasurer Carlos. No, we're not treasurer, that's
Chair,
CJ.
vice chair.
Chair, vice chair, that's. a good
I
one.
so moved to nominate all three incumbents.
I second it.
Okay, any comments? Any last backing out? Okay, all in favor say aye. I shouldn't be calling this. All in
Aye.
favor say aye.
Aye.
All Opposed? Well, speaking of conflict of interest, we can't vote for ourselves, so there's like, two people just voted.
Been seeing the policy, we gotta see what the conflict of interest policy
Yeah, let's
is.
just put it down. That's good, because I'm tired of seeing this thing on here. All right, the next is the strategic planning update, circles update.
So Policy Circle met real quick to go over some of the recommendations of the audit letter. I didn't get a chance to meet with the outreach circle. I don't know the status of the facility circle. I feel
Well, we
like
can check on that. We have a, thanks to my buddy over here, thank you, Sean. I'm okay. What is your name? What did you finally decided what I was thinking about talking about United Way. And I said, Chad finally got it.
Oh,
Right, so we're all going over to United Way because I was talking about how their offices look, and that's how I would like ORCA to look. And Chad went over there on a separate mission and came back and said, I get it. So we're going over to talk to Tanya Christensen. She's head of United Way, and she's gonna show us around her cheaply just decorated offices, which are absolutely fabulous. Emphasis on cheap. So we're going there at the end of the month on a Friday, and we're gonna take a tour and get pizza while we're there.
Great.
That's the best building ever. They've got everything in there. So that's what we're doing, and I can talk on Bill Doyle's I don't know if you guys have done anything on it, but let me tell you that we may have an opportunity the first day of the legislature to announce our grant. If we're ready by then, because I'm also working on getting Bill a bronze plaque with his likeness of his face or picture and something from, his constituents, and they're very excited about it. The legislature, so they were going to announce it on the first day when the House and Senate get together, and I said, and Orca's got this grant that we'd like to announce, so I thought that'd be, if we have, doesn't have to be like etched in stone, but something I can talk to them about, okay?
Sounds good.
Yeah, okay, approval of minutes.
Do you have any other circle updates?
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought.
Oh, I did mine really quick.
She
So
did that
the
too.
policy circle met to go over some of the responses for the management letter. So a lot of that information came from that policy circle. And the outreach circle, I didn't get a chance to meet with.
Yeah, so how, I mean, just, I don't know when we want to discuss this, but how do we track as a board, track the audit work to be done? I mean, is there a way we can have a list of topics and then we can check it off as we go along if they're part of the minutes, just so we don't forget what.
So I can pull together a list. I do have at the end, at the back of the board packet, I put together some sample reports that that would
Yes.
address the ones, so the ones that say journal entries and the author or the inverse, I'm sorry, the automatic payments, as well as whether we wanted to do like I did a report of all the transactions that hit our bank account from before to now, and
Right.
as just like as
That's
a
great.
reference.
Well, that's
So
good.
I think the other bit I just need is, do we want it to be the chair, the treasurer, or Zach, or the other co-directors? So whether there's any changes in who gets to be the second pair of eyes
Yeah.
on it is
That's
the only
that's a
bit that I
discussion
would
The
need.
board would need to have.
Right.
Who would we want as the second sign off?
And we're talking about the recommendations we
Yeah,
got
right,
today,
he
right?
said somebody
I
else
think-
could.
I think what would help us with all the recommendations is to just cleanly extract them and have them like big bullets there.
Right,
And then organize that in terms of a calendar and create like actions, we're gonna work on this.
yeah, that's what I was.
From
hoping
this to this time to like create that
Forget
list.
From, every other month,
Right,
it's hard to remember,
but I,
we need something.
I think we need to extract them from the paper, from
Yeah,
here,
I agree.
and from words, and just put the things that we need to work on.
That's
It's
good.
very simple,
Visual.
and then create an
And I
action
think
list.
As far as signatures, just to cover
Well,
your
that's easy, that's,
CYA, that term,
Mhm.
it should be somebody from the board. I'm in enough with my show, I wouldn't mind doing it for you,
Okay,
but it's to cover your tracks.
so,
CYA, right? Cover your accounts.
all right, so what I'll do is I'll pull out the management responses, maybe make a document, a Google Doc that everyone could access and take a look at and see about what the item is, what the result should be, and maybe a timeline, and then
Right.
you can put comments of whether you want to change when that could be done, or if you want to change the due dates,
okay,
and then I'll send out.
Yeah, because
And
some
you
of
and-
these are gonna take a while, sorry. I meant to interrupt.
correct.
That cyberspace thing. who the hell
And
knows?
you and Zach are gonna set up that schedule, right, in terms of.
What our
hierarchy.
work frame and
Yeah, for
what we,
those.
yeah.
That
Yeah.
sounds,
Is
Yeah.
We
that
could
okay?
even augment the management responses with board responses. If, this is general, but one thing that would be possible is like Pat and I meet on a regular basis. Anybody would be welcome to join to do some of the review that they've requested. If we picked like
Right,
20 minutes on the second Tuesday of each month or something like that, I'm willing to set that time up on my calendar if that's useful.
go to Noah's, my new favorite place.
Yeah.
You too, Noah? Oh my God. Isn't it great? What's another stuff? Okay.
I mean, I think like honestly, the reason why I asked for the follow-up on the circles, is I feel like that's a great idea, and I feel like we need to do some thinking about what each of the circles are doing, and also assign sort of time-based
Action.
deadlines, action items to that as well, because it just keeps getting drifting. Like, I don't even remember how long ago the
Right.
strategic planning was.
It's hard for them. I keep bugging Zachary to take, and it's, they're just wiped out. Every time I go there, they go nutty. Sorry, I'm.
Well, maybe that's like a thing that the committees need to take on themselves and
Right.
create some sort of a schedule, or even if it's short-term,
Right, I agree.
medium-term, long-term goals. Like our timeline that's still on the chalkboard.
Right.
Yeah, he was cool. Yes, sir.
I noticed in my minutes that, Catherine Webster is in the movie using us and our resources. Angels in the Darkness. She got to be becoming a community producer, so she could make a studio show. And that's already been done, it was filmed on Tuesday, the 21st of October. So I think we ought to get credit for that,
Right.
and actually watch
We
it.
don't advertise as we should.
It's about, it humanizes the homelessness crisis in Los Angeles by discussing Catherine and her daughter's experiences in LA.
Right,
So it just seems like these are things that
right. There's a
that
lot.
our resources are benefiting the community and the
Well,
filmmaker.
that's it. Did you see the community, presentations that the, John put together for us? He sent it to us, electronically.
Probably I'm a techno peasant.
Oh, okay, right. We'll make sure you get to see it.
Mhm.
And there was and also he's doing an effort with, somebody from Montpelier Live about Halloween. And that was also sent out. And then Sean's gonna send it to the actual producers, because I've gotta get it to the LGBTQ people.
Okay.
He's like,
Oh, great. I'm just really pleased to see it.
yeah, no, I will
It's
send
a
you.
more important issue than homelessness right now.
Right. Housing for them to live in.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did, well, I'm getting off topic, I don't wanna do that. All right, so I think, tried to make a good suggestion about the circles. Do we have approval of minutes? Did I not see?
No, we haven't, we're gonna move, that's our next item,
Okay,
I believe, or no, it's
Mhm.
approval, it's the next one, so.
okay, I did not see, are they
They're
in
in
there?
the,
I didn't see it.
so they're right past the financial statements or the audited financial statements,
Oh,
so.
there, here we are, I got it, thank you. Buried.
Yes, I was thinking that was our agenda for today, and that's why I was confused earlier. I was like, it's gonna vote. Okay.
Okay,
let's see.
so we have the, minutes of the June 24th meeting before us. Board members present, et cetera, and if there are any, well, let's first get a motion to accept the minutes as presented. Any motion on to get the minutes to the table so we can comment on them? Any motion?
Well, right now, I'm just doing some corrections, some Google, I'm reading
Oh,
it, just
okay.
Word, I'm just looking for errors, I'm doing that right now, so.
Would anybody like to make a motion to put these, accept them? I'll have a moment of silence for people to read it. I did announce about Palin, did I not? I did in the beginning.
I'll move.
Had
Thank
I
you.
missed the first 2 minutes and we were already well in by 6:32. So I missed Palin.
Oh, Palin has resigned from the board. She has taken on the chair, I believe, of the League of Women Voters.
Good for
Yes.
her.
She's going to have her hands full, and it's a very important assignment, so good for her. But she will continue to be a producer. She's doing a once-a-month show about Montpelier and what's happening at the council.
So I have in co-directors report, in number 8, I see the E, in the E, the bottom is the next to last word says auditing, is it auditing process?
Yes.
Oh, I think. so.
Okay,
Yeah,
auditing, right? It was auditing, they meant, right? Right now.
I'm glad that they didn't, do a ding.
It's,
I know.
all right, so,
And it was the word, the thing.
so Dave, you submitted a move for it to pass, is that correct? I
Yes.
did.
Is there,
And
any questions about the minutes?
Did you have
We've
something
had a
else?
motion?
No, I
I
second,
I second it.
there you go.
Okay. Wait, I'm confused because did you make a motion to accept?
Yeah, second.
Oh, okay, we got it. Dave and Chad seconded.
Yep, correct, and I got it.
And are there any questions or comments about the minutes? Well done. So we have no questions or comments, can we have a vote on the minutes? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. I am sad that Helen is leaving. I enjoy her company. And, but we need to find other members to join us. And we should figure that out maybe at the next meeting, figure out how to do that.
So we do have 2 spots open for the board. We generally have 9, or the bylaw says we can have up to 9. So if you wanted to reach out to your
Circulate.
peeps, if you had, that we'll have 2 spots.
Okay, so, financial report. We have 5 to 8. So if we can do a quick run through.
CJ?
There's no CJ. CJ,
Yep, sorry, I'm here.
hi there.
Hey
Can we
there.
do a financial report fairly quickly?
Absolutely. Yep. So, okay. Yep. Sometimes Jen leads off, but give me one second while I pull up the Edward Jones statements. So obviously, congratulations on a clean audit. That's a huge accomplishment. I feel like I want to credit Mike Doyle and Jen and Zach as doing a great job.
Yes, second that.
Very much.
Yep. And I'd love to send a letter to Mike Doyle if somebody would be willing to do that, just being like, hey, Mike, congratulations, and thank you for setting us on such good footing. So if we need a motion for that, I would stick one into the middle of the treasurer's report.
The letter would be most appropriate. I'm not sure how Mike is on the computer, so I'd like to, we can do a letter.
All right. Well, just a quick look at our financials.
Something if nobody else wants to.
Thank you.
A letter from the chair would be nice, or you and I could co-sign it, whatever you want.
No,
But
I'll write one up and you and I can,
Great.
sure.
All right.
Yeah. Sign a t-shirt. We should all sign an ORCA
There you
t-shirt.
go.
What do you guys think? Do we have an ORCA t-shirt or something that's left over that we could sign for Mike Doyle?
Oh, wouldn't that be fun?
I think we have only community produced.
Only community, because mine's black, which wouldn't be good for signing.
Not good for signing.
No.
We
We'll
need,
look
Okay.
around.
we need to
Okay.
create merch.
Yes, we do. Merch is important.
Yeah.
We need young artists do some,
So
Or
CJ,
merch.
did you want me to go over the financials and then you go, or do you want to go first?
Nope, I'm all set to go. Just real briefly, the Edward Jones financial statements gives us a picture, but at the moment, just because we are in such a big picture mode, I just want to point out that 5 years ago, our total assets were $264,000. And 3 years ago, our assets were $276,000. And I think 2 years ago, am I on 2 years now that you guys elected me as your treasurer? Anyway, we made some changes and some of this is not in, just to be clear, some of this is not organic growth, but a year ago, our assets were 498,000. So they grew from 276 to 498. And as of the end of last month, they were just under 540,000.
Kudos.
great.
Up about 8,000 from a month ago. Now the sanity check, okay? We've been in an unprecedented market growth period that is frankly unsustainable. I'm not optimistic about the future of the American economy. So we're currently sitting on a collection of bonds that are doing okay. And this time when our CDs came up, thanks to the freedom that you guys gave me, we stepped away a little bit from the laddered strategy of having things mature and throw off stuff every quarter because we were standing in a solid enough financial situation that we didn't need that. And also our awesome bonds got called, so we got into some very difficult to call longer term bonds yielding about 5 and change percent. In 4 different areas, of which 3 of them. So a bond throws off interest payments. It also itself has an intrinsic inherent value. Our smallest bond, which we put 20,000 into, has decreased ever so slightly in value by about $500. Everything else is up. So those are the actual asset. And then they're throwing off interest at rates anywhere between 4.4% and 6.9%. So expect that approximately 110,000 to throw off about 5% or about 5,000 a year, which can be applied to our shortfalls, or it'll continue to be reinvested unless the company needs it. At the moment, we remain in Michael Doyle's choices, and those have performed okay. And Jen has offered to set up, because I've had some personal stuff, so I'm out of state, and we're just going to set up a signature with Edward Jones near where I am. Jen's offered to take that up. So Pat McDonald, you can expect a renewed letter to enable the creation of the new accounts to facilitate the change from the old American funds to a more diversifiable investment strategy to come across your desk in the next week or two, and we'll generally have 30 days to execute that. With that, I continue to follow pretty much Mike Doyle's relatively conservative investment strategy while working creatively with Jen to try to manage for a very flexible ability to get at money if we need it. And my final thing is, Jen, what is our annual run rate? Is it about $500,000 that's needed to run the company at this point?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the first part of the question?
Sure. The annual budget for ORCA, is it right around 500? It's in your note there, but
It's so the budget we're going to be looking at is at 493. So
yep. So we are currently just over. This was originally envisioned to be sort of like a cushion if ORCA needed it. It's now, in my opinion, and this is a future discussion, not for tonight, but we need to look at this now as we now have enough to be that cushion. And so we can now look at it as, could it be used to fund something that's consistent with our business purpose? And I have some thoughts about that I'll save for later in this meeting. But right now we're in a good situation. We are looking at recession or depression, in my opinion. I think that my personal view of our economy and our country is somewhat pessimistic, and some of my ideas for what ORCA can do with this to support Vermont small business is to kind of both stay on mission and maybe help our state and our community to weather what I view as a coming storm. So any thoughts or questions?
Thank you.
Thank you very much, CJ.
I mean, so would you feel that we're in a good position to weather a downturn for us? I mean, that would be my first, like.
Oh, that's a great question. So the answer is that we're in a anywhere from terrible to great. We're in a pretty good position. And the problem we have is this. and Jen and I had this discussion. So Jen, please feel free to jump in to clarify or expound. Right now, we have declining revenues from Comcast. So our statutory funding source is not good. Oddly enough, the benefit to COVID and to some of our natural disasters was the legislature recommended the unique value that ORCA provides our community as a coordinating resource and an information distribution resource by providing, what is it, 1 million in the annual budget that Van is administering?
We just got 1.35 is what
Okay,
Van
great.
received.
Yep. So we'll receive a portion of that, and it is going to kind of leave us break even, but cost of living increases and unexpected expenses are not covered. So we are in a sort of a we're in a losing ground because expenses increase, but holding steady in terms of if expenses never increased, we are whole thanks to the legislature. And in this environment, what Jen pointed out is that Van's view is that going back to the legislature and saying, hey, could you expand us, is not going to happen. We're going to be really quiet and try to do a good job and keep everything steady. And that leaves us in a situation where we need to expand. If we're going to continue to do the job we're doing and keep the staff we have and just hold steady, we're going to need to expand revenue. I'll do the best I can as your treasurer to manage our assets conservatively, because that's your guidance to me, but still try to have them produce some income. But really, as a board, as a company, can we do more for the community? And in so doing, can we apply for grants or make contractual agreements with, for example, so I am going to get into a little bit some thoughts. Can we get into, for example, contractual agreements with, for example, towns that have business councils or economic development directors, such as Randolph has, to supply services to help Vermont business do better, make more money? So can we provide enough value, predictable value, such as helping these guys shoot commercials for these little businesses, helping them understand how to reach an audience using the internet, which is not necessarily a skill that rural Vermont businesses are going to have, but we do. So, ORCA's traditionally not needed to think about these because we had this guaranteed revenue source, and our job was to maintain the ability for communities, including small businesses, because Van's now confirmed that that is part of our mission, and it's okay. We can take in revenues through that, and it's consistent. So
I think, CJ, I'm sorry, I just, like, this feels like it's getting like into a strategic planning thing. I'm just like,
yes.
I'm actually just responding to what your, I think, thoughtful pessimism about the near to medium term economic sort of situation in the country. Do you think that investment wise, does that necessitate any sort of change on our end in terms of the Edward Jones stuff? Does that make sense?
It does, and I apologize because I had misunderstood your question. So does it? Yes, the policy the board's already approved that I have frankly that we're taking steps to finally execute will provide flexibility. And what I'm pessimistic about is that we're going to stay in this great market situation where the assets are really increasing. So because we're already in a pretty conservative position, and we're going to stay in a pretty conservative position, we may see some loss of these assets, or just some as the market contracts, we may see that our net asset value may go down a little bit, and we'll continue to stay in a pretty conservative position of mixed cash positions, bond positions, and conservative market positions.
And can I comment? So I think, and I agree, CJ, I think what you bring here is great to hear all this. I absolutely believe that. I think for the best of this community here, right, of our meeting here, I think the best thing would be at some point is to create a meeting, an agenda meeting where we're less ambitious for other things, kind of to tackle these deeper issues, right? Like, for example, like we could decide at some point to have a meeting in where all other reports are one-liners, so that we really go deep into this. This is an important thing, which we're always running out of time, and we really don't go deep into things. So I think to set aside some time to do that work would be great at
What
some
about
point.
the every other month that we're not meeting? Just pick a topic and come here and digest it, because we get off topic sometimes.
Right, so I
So
think,
Pat, are you willing to, because I agree with you. I think you're right. We need to have a meeting
Well,
on,
some of these issues I think are fascinating, but it's hard to do it in 10 minutes.
definitely, yeah, absolutely.
So if we have
Yeah.
a meeting on every other month, every other month, have an hour meeting and just come in here and get some coffee and talk about it. Or Zoom or whatever you want, so
Right.
just let's
Yeah.
get together every other month and talk about this, because this is important stuff. And I think how, as Dave said before, how to market what we do. People do not know what we do. And I think they need to know, and I don't know what that means in Montpelier or Central Vermont or our viewing area, which is huge.
our anniversary party, which could be done part online. Anyway, let's get together and have a two-part meeting. One to think about the celebration and how to market ourselves, and
Yeah.
the second about how to diversify the revenue sources. Would that be?
There's a combination of topics.
Sounds really good.
Diversify and party. All right, I got my notes. Okay, cool.
Marketing and
Yeah,
diversification.
every other month will be December.
So
I don't mean just will we be starting January, we'll start the every other month meeting will be January. And if we waited, we'd be talking about this in February, but I think that's too long. So it would be somewhere in December. Try finding a time in December, but I'm willing. Must be sometime.
So I can send out a poll
Yeah,
to
let's
see
send out-
what's,
let's send
who's
out
got
something.
time, and with that,
Okay.
so in
But we
terms
also
of,
have
What did she say? What
Sorry.
did you say? Come
CJ,
back.
I think she's.
Oh, all I said is it's still October, so we could try to get together next month in November. Or did somebody say we couldn't do
Oh,
that?
that's right, it's November. Good
Yeah.
too. Thinking a
It's
month ahead.
October still. Yeah,
Yes,
Halloween's in
October.
a couple of days, so
That's
let's
all
try
I
to
can
meet in
think
a couple.
about is Halloween. Okay, so what else on the financials?
so on the financials for just
I
real
think
quick.
Jessica
Oh.
had a.
Jessica, you have your hand up? Yes, hi.
Yeah. Yeah, hi. I just need to be clear. So like we're gonna start meeting every other month and we're just
Every
gonna talk
month,
about
every
one
month,
subject.
what, will be a discussion of a topic. And if we don't have a discussion, we won't meet. But it will only be an hour. And it could be by Zoom, and it won't,
Right.
we'll try not to make it interfere with life.
And I think, Jessica, I think this is, I mean, for that, I think if the topic is something that you feel, you know, that you feel that you contribute to, or that you're gonna get something from, then I think you should definitely be there. And if not, there are other areas that you could pick up, right? It's not like
Mhm.
we,
Not mandatory.
It's not an official.
it's not official whatsoever.
No, it's
Right.
it's advisory or
Right.
some kind of.
And I think tonight, I think after we're done with moving on with this, I think after this tonight, we should come up with some ideas. I have some ideas about start organizing some of this stuff, so that when we get to some of these meetings, we have the dishes already prepped. We just have to sit down and eat our food,
Good job.
which is what we need.
Yeah.
So
Does that answer your question? Does that answer
Yeah,
your question? Yeah. So I work in another group, we have an advisory committee. If you don't like the topic, don't come in. If you can contribute and you're interested, join us.
Right.
So not mandatory. Okay,
So just on the ORCA financials, a couple of line items that were a little bit high, the dues and subscriptions, we paid our van bill. So our portion to van, and that was based on a calculation of the Comcast revenue and our government appropriations. So that formula was new, and so we didn't budget for it previously. So that's why it's a little bit higher than what we expected. The other bit was that was higher was, I think, the business insurance was a little bit higher than expected, but it's it was, I think we talked about it previously because we're just continuously paying for it. And then, so outside of that, I think that's pretty much it for, you know, the financials. I did want to spend some time with the budget. So I kind of, you know, if there's any questions about the financials, I'm happy to answer it. But I did want, since time is getting past, I wanted to make sure that there were any questions about the 2026 budget to make sure to address those.
We should vote on that to make sure, or is your discussion in the budget, is that wrapped into the financials? No.
No,
Okay.
unless there's questions about the financials.
And is, the whole gateway thing, affecting us in rent in here? The college that's right
Yeah,
here
what they're doing
has
out
made a
there.
connection with a place out in the far west called Gateway.
Right.
Or Greenway, so.
Or Greenway, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
so in terms of, I mean, our rent, we have our lease and it's just ongoing and we haven't had any adjustments
No
or.
changes to the building.
No, I think that there's been talk about wayfinding and some signage coming down the line that I think the facilities group wanted. So we're just kind of waiting for the next step or hearing about the next step about the signage. But outside
Anybody
of
have any information on that?
I haven't heard anything, but I can.
It would also be a perfect thing for our 25th anniversary to thank the community and to thank the college for providing the rental space.
Right.
And that may be helpful for them to get a little publicity if they're doing something that has affected so many lives, as ORCA has.
Yep. All right, so do we have a motion to accept the financials as submitted?
I'll move to that.
Dave moves, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Carlos seconds, any further discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? So, good. Oh, I should ask you to abstain. Okay, done. I was just wondering on this, what is this page here? It says, it's the 2026 budget draft.
Mhm.
Is that what you're gonna go over?
Yeah,
All those little red and green,
so
lines
the
you have there?
highlighted.
Didn't look good up on top there.
So, the 2026 budget, what I've done for the revenue is taken the lowest amount that we've received from Comcast and use that to calculate out for the year. So, you know, we know that we're expecting a revenue loss and it kind of shows up there. I think I did increase the amount from the production revenue. We did get more. So you can see in terms of like explaining the report. So I did a comparison from 2026 versus 2025's budget. And then at the end, there's also where we are compared to what the actual 2025, even though we're not quite done, amount is. So we did bring in a bit on production revenue. We were kind of going low, so I did increase that so that we hopefully will get some more. I think we are being pretty consistent in tailing summits and conferences that we're starting to charge and annual meetings that we're charging. So, and then the donation column is, we have been coding the summer camps into the donations because it's like a sliding scale. So that 2,700 is primarily the summer camp fees that we're hoping to get. And last year or this last summer, we did 2 camps just because we had kids age out of the original one and they still wanted to come. So we did 2 weeks of camp. So we've doubled that. And that's what the 2,700 is. The government appropriations reflects what we have gotten from the government. So that's our portion of the 1.35 million. In 2026, we're going back to the legislatures and I think we're asking for 1.8. So it may be more, but what we're concerned about is really just what we're getting. And that's pretty much guaranteed that's coming in. The capital gains and the uncategorized income is so generally what we've done in the past with the budget is we've put everything, the amount that we needed to make the budget equal 0 into capital gains. And we said, okay, whether that's realistic or not, whether it meant that, you know, we pulled some money out of the investment savings portion to cover the expenses. We just threw that amount. So this year I thought what I would do was get like maybe, you know, is there a realistic number that we can put in for capital gains that we really do think we might make in capital gains? So, because like, for example, like this year, we're kind of behind in what we budgeted just because I did, you know, I wasn't thoughtful about what's realistic about capital gains in our investment income. I just said, this is what we need to make the amount zero or the budget zero. So our expenses are always higher than what we bring in revenue, and that column is really just miscellaneous ways that we try to make our budget equal zero. And it could be like this year, oftentimes at the end of the year, we have money that we didn't spend in the previous budget that we just kind of roll over. So that's kind of like this miscellaneous income that we don't pull from the savings or the investment, but we have to use toward this new budget. So I wasn't exactly sure which is the best way to categorize that kind of money because we won't know at the end until the end of the year and everything gets cleared out.
What's an actual capital gains amount that's realistic? And what's happened over the years?
So that's where I'm not sure. So this currently we're at like 46. So we're not super far behind. I'm not sure what's a good amount, and I don't know if capital gains were used in previous budgets in that same way, if there was a rough estimate made, because I think
I'm reluctant to use it as a zero base thing. I think I'd rather have them show what's real, and if we have to make up somewhere else, we do.
So that's where I might ask CJ if she could give me a good number to put in that budget for capital gains, what seems reasonable, and what we'll do is, and in that uncategorized income will be the difference. So whether that means that we need to pull it from, if we actually do hit our budget, you know, pull it from
a little bit from everything to make it.
Yeah, so
that'd be better.
I think that also, you know, when CJ was talking about like we have money now in the investment accounts to do stuff, it would be, I would vote to use it primarily to cover the difference in expenses first before starting new services, just so that we have the budget at zero rather than a deficit. And
I want it to be a true zero, a real zero. I don't want to fudge the numbers. That's a bad thing.
So I think if we're bringing in, like, if we could say, you know, we're bringing in extra amount, and I don't know if we categorize it as income or if we want to just leave it as a deficit in the expenses being, you know, extra. So we look at having a deficit.
CJ give you a number, let's take it from.
Okay, so that would be.
It is, because it's quite a difference from last year, you had 12, right?
No, so last year we had 63. So this year we're asking, essentially, so in 2025, we budgeted for the capital gains 63, and that's, it is serving to the same function of capital gains and miscellaneous income. So this year I just broke it out between the 60 and the 12. The other thing I forgot to, like, when we first started this, so the budget gets voted in December. I just, you know, I have been trying to present it in the October meeting so people have options to make adjustments or ask me to make changes to it before the actual budget comes through in December. So a lot of this, you know, if you do see things that you're like, I want to change, we have time to do that.
I think last year it continued on a while, but we didn't vote on December, did we? I think we stuck it out a little bit.
It was the server, right? We were talking about Harriet.
Oh, whether to purchase Harriet and
the funding of that and the whole financing and all that.
Yeah.
What was that?
So I think so that's what the shaded bits are, is where I mean, the primary shaded bits would be that in revenue, in the Comcast revenue, we're expecting it to be lower than what it was. So in expenses, the shaded bits are where we're budgeting higher than 2025. So, you know, salary compensation, we did put in a 3% COLA for the camera operators, and admin. So if we don't want to have, I feel like admin, like Zach and I would be fine not doing another COLA. I think last year in 2025, we didn't take a 3% COLA, but we did offer it to the full-time staff and to camera operators that have been that have worked a certain amount of hours.
Right.
So the other bit is the VTCC, that's the childcare payroll tax that we hadn't put in the budget. So this year we did make sure that we put it in. The other bits were, there's some accounting, we increased, and we did increase the dues and subscriptions because if the van is calculating it based on the formula of Comcast revenue and government appropriations, it's going to be higher. So that's, we updated the formula of getting to the dues and subscriptions. I think the website project is over just because I under budgeted last year. I made a mistake in pulling the numbers. So hopefully this will be more accurate of what we actually do pay. And I think outside of that, those were the primary bits. Besides, you know, health insurance is always going to be a little bit more. The outside of those parts, rent will always be a little bit more.
What is the website project? What is that?
You know, they coded it as a website project, but it's just our hosting, like the website hosting bill falls into the website. So we pay annually $1,500, and I added, just in case they decided to increase the price, a little percentage.
Jen, where's the director's insurance?
The insurance goes under the business
Oh,
insurance.
that's what I was thinking, okay.
So the cable revenue is down 12,000 for this year, and the other capital cables down 2,000.
Yeah,
That's $14,000 less than we had for 2025.
yes. And that may be also, I mean, we're expecting a Comcast check in November. So oftentimes, like right now, we've only received 2 Comcast checks. So when we pulled the lowest amount, it's still kind of estimating. So this number in December may still decrease depending on what the Comcast check comes in November.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else that you need to?
No, I guess, you know.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Just a quick question. This is CJ. Given that the Comcast revenues are declining, rather than using the most low number that we've gotten for budgeting purposes, should we go figure out the average decline, and then would it make more sense to budget based
I
on
can
that trend rather
definitely
than
look at that trend and make an
picking-
adjustment to the budget amount. I think it would be probably more accurate, definitely. It's sadder on our budget line just because our revenue numbers. And so, but I'm happy to make that adjustment to the revenue.
Right. That's a good comment. Yeah, I
Am I
think so.
thinking about, and then part of the benefit of that is rather than chasing a declining revenue stream, we can more proactively forecast, and then we can go back to Van and say, we are operating in deficit spending mode. Can you help?
So Van is helping, and I don't think that they're like all the AMOs are participating in the legislative work to get the money from the state. And so in that sense, yeah, we can't, I mean, they do a formula so that everyone gets it.
Right.
And the formula right now is based on the number of cities that we serve. We get a percentage based on that. We get a percentage, we get always our revenue loss covered. The Comcast or the cable revenue loss gets covered first. So however much we lose, they make sure that the government appropriations covers that bit. And then there's always a third bucket that's a straight flat fee. So everyone falls in that in that calculation. So
What keeps people from overspending
from the
and getting money from a van?
So it's not based on the expenses, it's based on the cable loss.
Oh.
So they only look at how much, like, so if one AMO has suffered a huge amount of cable loss, they are gonna get more of that
Okay, that makes
appropriations.
sense.
Because that's
Let's
what we went to the state, the legislature was about cable loss, so they're making sure that gets covered.
I think that's a great, oh, sorry.
Can we let our legislators know that, without any, reason, but because of certain to do, that with the dynamics of money in general, and that our cable revenue had gone down by quite a bit, so that the legislature knows that we're not gonna cut back any services to this community, to the legislature, to the meetings and all the things we do. But if they would like to help us by, filling the hole that came from the cable revenue.
So that's where that government appropriation, so that has been our messaging out to the State House.
Okay, good.
And that's why they've always said yes, and it's always kind of like the amount that we're asking for is to be like, to kind of
Let it
cover
go.
the, to,
Great, okay. you're
without
right.
expanding services or anything, just to make
Better
sure.
edge than others,
Oh, she's
because
ahead
we
of me.
cover
That's
them,
good.
Okay.
they want to be covered.
Yeah, I think it would be a good idea what CJ suggested to base it off of annualized decline rate. I think that would be smart, and I think another thing we should think about is looking at that red number, and that should be our target for what we need to try and start trying to make up in production or in other means.
So when you say the red number, are you
The loss.
The losses.
of cable loss?
Okay, yeah.
Because I was gonna say, what would be great also is because that cable loss kind of, we're getting covered with the government appropriations. So that's, it's kind of taken care of by the government appropriations. What would be great is our expenses continue to increase and we can try to reduce, and we do try to reduce, but we're at like, I think the bare minimum of what we can cut down. So that amount, like where we are, where our expenses overreach the income, would be great to have that piece be where that alternate revenue stream comes to get that covered, just because, we don't have really a way to get that covered besides pulling from our savings, so to speak.
Well, then if we could then similarly use a predictive method so that we're thinking about the future and not just sort of
Working
like,
4 years ahead.
yeah, exactly. So we're not treading water. We're just like making barely enough to get by. That's in the same way that we would be looking at the loss on the other line.
I think that would be great to highlight that number. You just said the number that you're operating in terms of deficit, not what the state is giving back, right? But that number, and then to project it. And I think that starting number, the first one, would be a good goal because it's more than that projection, the 2 or 3 years projection, right? I guess the starting goal.
So I think, and like, if I'm understanding like expenses, right?
Yeah,
Or- okay.
Yeah.
So, because I think we can definitely do that, because we're not, we could give you different scenarios of like, this is status quo and that's, health insurance always is going to go up a certain
Right.
percent. And I generally with our budgeting, I do like a certain, like a 1.3% increase for different ones that we think are going to increase. So then we could say, but if we wanted to increase services, there's like, if we want to cover more towns, considering that we're still not covering everything in our service area in terms of like the towns, then it's like, okay, well, I didn't, like one of the places like mileage is like, I didn't increase it. So we're not looking to cover more things out in the places. So we could do a scenario of if we're actually going to increase our coverage, what might that look like also? So that there's like the status quo where it's just like regular cost of business increases. And then if we're going to increase services of like the regular services of meeting coverage, and then there's like, if we're going to do a different initiative of like the small business videos, like that's something completely different that would take different types of time. So I'm happy to do some scenarios and present those also if you want in between, like across.
Again, I think that sounds that requires a sit down, I think.
So that's
Right.
part of that meeting where you
Right.
talk about alternate revenue streams,
Right.
like maybe
Right.
that's where it would be the
Right.
best
Right.
place to
And I
kind of look
agree.
at those.
That's our November meeting. Yeah.
So in
And-
terms of just for the budget, primarily for this one, it is like, we weren't planning on increasing services to other,
Right.
I mean, we will do stuff, but we're not like looking to try to do that. And this is just pretty much the straight,
I
like
agree with that.
regular increases that just come with the businesses always doing extra.
Right.
Who's
So
going and talking to Van? Who's our
I do.
representative to Van?
I
Okay,
do.
can you point out to Van that we have a number of what are called super municipalities? And that I think it's important to, and so they're essentially like new towns, only they're massive. Like EC Fiber is a super municipality of now up to 40 different towns and cities. It's not getting covered. It's got some committees, it's got board meetings, and I think other Van members, other AO, whatever we call ourselves, are covering the other ones. So, you know, we actually have some additional areas that we do need to provide coverage that we're not right now, that we're not budgeted for, but that's like $150 million of not being covered. So it's significant. So, and they're new. They didn't exist before the legislature passed them.
So I think those, you know, because primarily we look at select boards and like, and then the EC Fiber, like those might be like regional agency type meetings. So depending on the capacity of the AMOs, like we sometimes cover, like ORCA sometimes covers some regional agents, but we prioritize like the select boards and the towns itself before doing those bigger regional agency. And it could be for other AMOs have more capacity to do that, but I know, so it could be something that we do talk to Van about, but I think that their focus is primarily like the towns and the municipalities.
My point isn't to say, hey, we're not doing something. It's to say these are new super municipalities that are doing municipal governance business that we cover under our governmental area. And because they're new, they didn't exist when we were created. We weren't budgeted for them.
Right,
but you see fibers in our area.
Right, but I think, you know, yeah, and I agree with that, but I think, as far as ORCA is concerned, I think my opinion is that expansion for us right now is not a thing. I think we need to first resolve, like, how do we start generating revenue, right, before we start talking about expansion.
Yeah.
That's just.
Any expansion I could imagine would be expansion toward generating.
Exactly. If it's tied to that, absolutely.
We had that discussion, who you can charge and who you can't, and I don't know.
And that we could save all that, I think.
For that other meeting, because I
thought we had talked about what we would charge and wouldn't charge. But I don't think we've done a lot of it, have we? Have we done some of it?
We've done some, like the production, the
Yeah, I
conferences
think we
and
need to
summits.
Jump in and say, sorry, people,
So
we're charging.
I guess going back, just because, I guess if you have questions about the budget or you want me to make any changes, definitely you can send me an email. I think this is just, I don't know that there needs to be a motion to accept. It's just pretty much putting it out. Yeah, it's a draft. And so let me know, send me an email if there's anything you would like me to change or.
So as far as the minutes here, that bullet point was put above our motion to pass a financial report. I'm gonna move that underneath it, so
Okay,
that
that makes sense, yeah, thank you.
Sure.
right.
I just didn't want to forget it as we
Okay,
went
all right,
into the
cool.
next section.
Ooh, I'll do that.
I'm worried about time.
I'm worried too.
Yeah, and I really,
I was gonna
the
say.
one thing I just, we can pick and choose, is there anything on the co-director's report that we need to talk about? That's, this is great to be, speaking of things that we could advertise, this is it.
So I think on the co-director's report is just pretty much, you know, if you could watch we've put in the links so that you could look at the various things that we've done. And outside of that, there isn't, you know, it's pretty much just kind of highlighting stuff. So we can skip through that. And then also, you know, there's the content report that we've been trying to maintain and put to so that you could see the towns that we're serving and the types of events. So that's, if you have any questions about that.
That's very helpful. The other thing on this thing then is the annual meeting. When is that?
May.
Oh, we're not gonna worry about that for a while.
Okay.
But you want a keynote speaker?
So we put together, I think board meeting, there was a conversation about the previous keynote and clipping it together. So Sean made a nice little short piece of the annual meeting keynote for people to review, and we didn't know if it was like just a promo. We just, we can give you a link. I think I put it
I
in.
think we had
That was,
Palin. We had Palin.
yeah, it was Palin's, and we just took highlights of it and made a little video, and that was left over. That was to be
Oh, I
presented
see.
at the
Okay.
August meeting, so it's just kind of left over. So I think there is, in terms of the co-director's report, there isn't anything. I'm happy to, if there's questions about anything in there, I'm happy to.
Yeah, I'm curious about stuff, I'm just curious. With the community partnerships, is this, are these things that are being co-funded, or are they just like say the Halloween live stream? Is it?
So
I noticed Montpelier Live is this year being involved with it for the first time. How is the nature of that arrangement?
So that we generally have a host for our Halloween parade, and we've been doing the Halloween parade, and getting the host has always been kind of hard. So Morgan had volunteered to be the host, and because she worked with Montpelier Live, it was like, oh, well, she's happy to volunteer, and I think, and have it be attached with Montpelier Live, and that kind of.
In kind.
Yeah, and I think it is, so a lot of these are all just, they're not anything income generating, but it's relationships that we're building, so hopefully it will continue either to get them to become to get more community producers, which
Right.
we're always looking to do, or to just get our name out there as. And so I think we've been kind of pushing our relationship with the high school or the schools in general to try to get them to use us and see us as a resource and hopefully become community producers. It would be great to have some younger community producers.
Yeah. Could I just get a request to, like, on these things, I think that building these relationships is really good. I think that also making sure that we capture data in some sort of way, so that maybe this year it is an in-kind partnership thing. But maybe if we have some sort of metrics that we can present, it could be something that could be a grant submitted for and then maybe funded.
Okay.
That would be for almost any of these, like, if we're being involved with this school, if we're being involved with the Halloween.
Yeah, we really have to
Have some sort of proof of performance, even if it, or quotes. Anything that we can gather that would be helpful. I could see this being something you could fundraise around, or the grant for.
Okay, so, I might reach out to try to get some metrics that you're thinking of so that we can make sure that we've got the data collection mechanism in place so that we can make sure that we get what you're thinking. I'll reach out.
Yeah, it's just having making sure to get something. It doesn't even have to be like super metric-y. It could totally be quotes. Let's just remember when we do these to collect, to think about, after we have our meeting next month, things that we could sort of be like, okay, let's push toward finding some funding for this and this and this.
Well, I want to say the last thing regarding the parade, the Halloween, is you're gonna have like the ORCA banner, like big and a big poster, or something that says you could watch this on, or you could rewatch this on ORCA Media's website and blah blah blah. Right? I think
Yes,
that's it.
and
Live or the next day?
so it's gonna be live. I think our Halloween parade's always live on Halloween, 5:30 to 8:30.
Right.
7:30, sorry, 7:30. So then they generally talk about it, and then we'll have things around. And I think we have more, like, because we have 3 co-hosts, we can have more people giving out information about
Where does
ORCA.
the parade go? Where is it, downtown?
Well, it's not a parade. I shouldn't say it's a parade. It's the Halloween that happens on College Ave. So all the kids that come through, we generally have a tent and a camera, and we have a co-host that
But you said you're gonna be up here this year. You're gonna be up at the corner here,
Yeah, over by Alumnix Hall.
and then the kid's gonna walk up here?
Thousands.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it's.
Well, I guess I'm staying home. I hope you all are.
I dare say millions.
It's hundreds of dollars worth of candy that get
Yeah.
out of each house.
And the dentists are all laughing and scared.
Yeah, right.
It's crazy, it's.
I told you, I think I was saying this to somebody before, my mother moved into Middlebury in a condo complex, circular. What we didn't know is everybody and his brother dropped their kid off because it was confined and safe.
Yeah.
My mother was very big on Halloween and always wanted to treat the kids. She just didn't have enough, and she told me, crying her eyes out, we live here. She lives there. I had to get in the car and drive like a son of a gun to get more candy and get to her. By this time, she was completely, it was like I had to bring it, I didn't, but I should have gone to the hospital. She was out of control.
Do we have a camera drone?
I don't know that. Do we have a camera drone? Yeah, but somebody's got a drone in this.
We can't fly, we couldn't fly a drone, especially, I wouldn't, definitely, wouldn't do that.
Take specialized insurance.
Insurance and all that, because safety, FCA, it's like,
You have to be licensed by the
Oh, yeah. yeah, absolutely. Especially with a big crowd.
I was just thinking, that looking at it, just like the thing that was in front of the State House.
Right.
Just looking from the top at how many people
Oh,
were
yes, for
there.
sure.
Right.
Would be really a wonderful thing, and if this
Somebody's got
parade
his
was
own,
happening-
one of those.
I have many drones I have many drones, but I would definitely not recommend or can be doing that over a
Okay, all
big
right, I
crowd.
was just thinking.
Liability, so.
Yeah, we could see if a community member who happens to take a picture of it, they're like, joining the
All on
photo.
top of DMV at 120.
Jim Broden.
All right, so I'm kind of, where are we right now?
We are deciding if, what we're gonna do about that last month's meeting that we have one meeting short, and how do we wanna handle it? And then we're going home.
So co-director's report's done. We're done with the
Yeah.
co-director's report. So, and then just a quick about the trademark, they're okay with doing an LLC. So they're in the process of that, and so I'm just kind of
Yeah,
waiting
that's a good
back
idea.
to hear from them. So that's that piece. So we could,
But then it will be a clean, pure fiscal sponsorship in the traditional way.
Mhm.
And we would not be tied into whatever it is that they want to do with their trademark stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah, beautiful.
In our fiscal sponsorship, is it reasonable to request that as we support them, they provide a proportion of net over
So-
expenses?
the MOU, we do get a certain percent after, I think this was the year that we would start to get a percent. They did ask us to go another year. I think that they're still kind of concerned about they're not quite pulling in enough. So they did say that they would like another year before paying. So I'm waiting to see the MOU to see how that looks, if that's still the case. That's what she was kind of mentioning. So I hadn't brought it up, but once we get the MOU, I'll bring it to the board to kind of, if they want to review
Can you
and
work with
see.
Pydan on that?
I'm sorry?
Work with Pydan on that?
Yeah, so she generally like pulls together the MOU. That's pretty much the same. And I guess it comes back to, do we want to say, no, we do want a percentage, or are we okay with?
What percentage were we asking for? Because
5 to 7 is usually standard and it's on donated money, not on net profits. It's on donations.
So
So,
I'll have to just double check, but the MOU, I think, was on ticket sales. Like we get a percentage of ticket sales, but not grants.
donations.
Yeah. So,
Well, I would say just to start the ball rolling, we should ask for less, maybe, just to keep it this, like, I don't know. Or
I would suggest we do what Jen said and look at the letter against the agreement and cross
Yeah.
it when we come to it,
did you what?
and cross that bridge when we come to it. Rather than making a decision now, let's just wait till Jen's got the data and then we can figure
Right,
it out.
okay, that's good, but I would like to start the rolling somehow, whether it's even 2% or something, just to get it on their books and our books.
Right now, nothing has changed as far as I understand it. And Jen has said, I'm waiting for the data, and I think that's a really good way to do it. From a business standpoint, if it's percent of ticket sales, but they could end up with a loss, then maybe we need to relook at the agreement, but we don't have that data yet.
Does the art walk come here?
So we've been doing the art walk, and I think in the co-director's report, there is a mention of last year or last art walk. The next art walk is gonna be in December, so
Will they be walking up here in the cold and the snow? Who knows?
I think if there's enough of I think that it's more of like, it seems like the people who come are the ones that have been targeted, or like they know this is happening,
that's
rather than
already
milling,
committed.
like the meandering walkers. So the board meeting that we missed, the bylaws say we have to have 6 meetings in the year, and we've missed one. And so whether that's the question of, do we want to have that missing board meeting in November, even though it's Thanksgiving, and it's like, so the next 2 months are holiday heavy,
Right.
it seems. So it comes to, I think, whether you want to do a motion to only have 5 this year and not catch up on that missing one, or do you want to try to get that missing meeting in
Define
November?
meeting,
It be a regular board meeting. It has, like, so it's
or it has to be.
with the
regular-
quorum
you can't
and
feed a little?
I move that we only have 5 this calendar year.
Why did you make that face?
it's like, I'm being patient.
If we're talking about doing these extra meetings,
Yeah,
it
that's
does make
enough.
sense.
Yeah.
I second the motion to do 5.
Yeah. So while we're discussing the motion before we vote on it, can we override a bylaw?
Probably not.
I am not versed in,
That's why I was asking if define meeting, because a meeting could be like they do in the legislature. Okay, we've met, goodbye.
then we strike the other, push the other meeting and
Make it a board meeting.
make it the board meeting.
Yeah,
With the purpose of solely focusing on,
yeah. We just call it a board meeting.
okay, that's what I'm asking, if there's a way to do this, a workaround.
Well,
Yeah.
Okay,
we could have, like I said, we could have the our other points, like the co-director's report of one-liners.
right.
Yes.
Okay, could we rescind the two, both in agreement, could we rescind the motions?
There's nothing,
Okay, remove.
Remove my second.
So could we actually schedule the November one, just since it's got the holidays? So could we, I think generally at the end, we try to schedule both like the next meeting and so generally we've done the 4th Thursday, or I'm sorry, the 4th Tuesday of every month, but I feel like that Tuesday is part of Thanksgiving week. So would you want to do the 18th, the Tuesday before?
Yeah, that's good on here.
We talking about November?
November.
And make that a mini meeting with this.
What about the 11th? Does the 11th work for people?
I won't be here, but somebody,
I'll be
my deputy can.
No, the 18th works for me. I think, Pat, without you, we may have trouble with quorum.
Yeah.
The 18th would be great.
18th, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. And then,
I might be traveling, but I could do it on, I could do it, I could zoom in, and if you record it, I can.
Yeah.
so since everyone's looking at their calendar, and I know theoretically in that November meeting, we could do it, but if we could kind of do a date for December, just because that's also holiday heavy. If we're doing the 4th Tuesday, that would be the 23rd, which is the Christmas Eve.
Really, no.
So
Grandpa's birthday.
do you want to do the 16th, which is the Tuesday
Yeah.
before, or is that still within the holiday break that maybe
For
makes
me.
it hard?
Well, 15 works for me.
The 16th?
I'll be out Christmas shopping at the last minute. but-
So 12/16, does that,
My poor husband has his birthday on the 23rd, and he moans about it every year.
So November is the 18th, is that correct?
November 18th, and then December
December
16th,
15th.
16.
Oh, 16th. Ooh, good thing I said that.
So that's the third Tuesday of December.
And on the November, let's go light on the financials and blah, 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 since we begin to defer them to December to a regularly scheduled meeting, so we just have the topics.
Okay.
Mhm.
And so the 11th what is in November?
18th, I'm sorry.
Okay, the 11th is
18th.
Veterans Day, so.
Oh, that rings a bell. Veterans Day.
A holiday.
Okay, and for the November 18th meeting, we're gonna focus on marketing and service diversification and income diversification. Is that right?
Yes, 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 and yes.
Cool,
Okay.
thanks. Yeah, I think if we just look at how we add value to the community, we'll be able to go and ask for support for adding that value with a straight face.
This has been excellent. I think we finished what we need to accomplish. And so I will call the meeting. I will.
Do we need to move to adjourn?
Need to move
Move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Bye.
It's a privileged motion. Bye, everybody. Thanks, y'all.